5 different types of Siddhants in India from the West. And I've talked about it, the 5
Madhu, you want to start?
Okay. Badram Karnebihi Shunyama Devaha Badram Pashyema Akshabihi Ryajatraha Sthirairangair Tushtuvam Sastanubihi Veshema Devahitai Yadayuhu Swastinaha Indro Vridrashravaha Swastinaha Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastinaha Tarksho Arishtanemihi Swastino Bruhaspati Dadatu Yo Antah Pravishya Mamavacha Imam Prashuptam Sanjeevayati Akhila Shaktidhara Swadamna अन्यांश्च हस्तचरणश्रवणत्वगादीन् प्राणान् नमो भगवते पुरुषाय तुभ्यं लसतु श्रीमदानन्दतीर्थेन्दुर्नो हृदम्बरे यद्वचश्चन्द्रिका स्वान्तसन्तापं विनिकृन्तति पदवाक्यप्रमाणज्ञान् प्रणम्य शिरसा गुरून् व्याकरिष्ये यथा बोधं विष्णुतत्त्वविनिर्णयम्. So good evening everyone. Thanks for making time for this evening again. Certainly in the UK, the weather is glorious, and despite the temptation of going out and having a good time, you have made some time for us today for another hour and a half of our contemplation on the philosophy of Gayatri Mantra. So, just to bring you back from where we started, as you know, middle of last year, we spent about 3 months talking about Purusha Shukta and how it is the essence of Vedic philosophy. Then this year, for 3 months, we did contemplation on Mandukya Upanishad to understand the philosophy of Omkara. And then we said, sandwiched between the Omkara Tattva and the Purusha Shukta is the Gayatri Mantra in the Vedic tradition. So we all felt that it would be incomplete for our contemplation if we not understand the glory of Gayatri Mantra as we have it revealed to us by Vishwamitra. Yeah, so we have done for about a month. We have done 2 weeks of Gayatri Mantra, focused specifically on the Gayatri Mantra. Last week was a special occasion, so we might have some new friends who've joined us today. So I welcome you all for today's session as well. So let's get started. So Harish, do you want to just get us all into the groove, please, here?
Sure. Om Bhurbhuvasvah Tatsaviturvarenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Nah Prachodayat.
Thank you, Harish. So, overview, bird's eye view of what this mantra is all about. So we started off with having an introduction to Rig Veda Samhita, and we said that the third mandala or the third book of the Rig Veda Samhita is Vishwamitra Mandala, and in the Vishwamitra Mandala, the 62nd Sukta, 10th Rik is what Harish has just recited. And what you have heard is exactly how sage Brahma Rishi Vishwamitra has revealed that mantra to us. And again, a brief recap of what the anatomy of the Gayatri Mantra is. And I've told you before, so traditional view is Gayatri Mantra is of two. One is the Brahma Gayatri and the Vishwamitra Gayatri. So Brahma Gayatri is how Chaturmukha Brahma saw this mantra. And that starts with Tat Savituhu Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. Vishwamitra Gayatri, what Vishwamitra saw in his deep meditation and contemplation, starts with Om Bhur Bhuvassuvaha Tat Savituhu Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Diyo Yo Naha Prachodayat. So that was the first step of understanding of what is Vishwamitra Gayatri and what is Brahma Gayatri. So then we have spent quite a number of weeks understanding how this Omkara, the sound, the vibration Om and the various components of Om is what expands into Vyahriti, the Bhu, Bhuvaha and Suvaha. And then it becomes that Bhu, we said last week or the week before, we spent 1.5 hours talking about what this Vyahriti actually means and how does it explain Akara, Vukara and Makara. And I told you that Bhu stands for Purnatva. Bhu is also another shortened form of Bhumatva or Bhuman, or the concept of infinitude, something that is complete, res completa, something that is an abode of infinite auspicious attributes. So when you say Bhu, you have to remember Purnatva or Purna. When you say Bhuvaha, then that is the shortened version of what we call as Bhuti Varaha, which essentially means that being which has immense power, that being that has so much capacity to do so many things, that being which is omnipotent. Suvaha, we said Ananta Sukhaha. Ananta Sukhaha is that being who is not only infinitely blissful but bliss himself. Yeah. So that is the etymology of Bhu, Bhuvaha and Suvaha, and we said that stands for Purnatva, Bhutivaratva, Ananta Sukhatva. So in Rig Bhashyam, as you know, and I've told this before, Acharya Madhva says, Om Ashesha Gunodara iti Narayano Apyaso Purno Bhutivaro Ananta Sukho Vyahriti Riritaha. So that is what we have done so far. So what is now left is for us to think about, so how does this Akara, which becomes the Bhu, which is the Purnatva, how is that explained in Tat Savituhu Varaniyam? How Bhumatva or Bhuvaha is explained by Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, and how Ananta Sukatva is explained by Dhiyo Naha Prachodayat. So that is what we are going to be doing today. So I just wanted to give you a brief idea of what Gayatri mantras is. So in Rig Veda Samhita, you would come across quite a few Gayatri mantras, not just in Gayatri Chandas, but there is a structure to it. Besides having 24 syllables in three padas of 8 syllables, the sequence is also quite distinct. Most Gayatri mantras would end with, the first pada would end with Vidmahe, the second line would end with Dhimahi, and the third line would end with Prachodayat. So Vidmahe, Dhimahi, Prachodayat, you would have heard many of these mantras. Yeah. So what does that actually mean? Vidmahe, Vidva, Vid means knowledge. So it gives you an idea of knowledge. Dhimahi means meditation. So look at the sequence, the way the mantras are constructed. First, you get knowledge about something, that is Vidmahe. Once you've got the knowledge, then you do meditation or dhyana on that. So that becomes Dhimahi. So we know from the famous verse that Yajnavalkya told Gargi, Atma va are drashtravyaha, Shrotavyo mantavyo nitidhyasitavyaha maitreyi. Yeah. So that was the sequence that Yajnavalkya has advised his wife, that the supreme being needs to be seen, but to see him, you need to follow a few steps. What are those steps? Shrotavyaha, mantavyaha, nitidhyasitavyaha. Yeah. So that nitidhyasitavyaha is the meditation, Dhimahi. Vidmahe, the knowledge is Shrotavyaha, Mantavyaha. So you hear and you read and you do manana and you revise and contemplate on it so that your knowledge becomes firmed up. So the Shrotavya and manana should lead to firmed up knowledge. And with that firmed up knowledge, you start meditating on what you have learned. So that is a natural progression. But the mantras also tell us prachodayat in the third line. They will finish off by saying prachodayat. What does prachodayat means? Literally, prachodayat means that which motivates us, that which impulsion, that which makes us do something. Yeah, so prachodayat. Why? Because we are all dependent beings, and I hope over the last 1.5 years of constant weekly readings that we have done, now we are fairly convinced that we are dependent beings on the Supreme Brahman. Yeah. So we are dependent for everything. What are all the things that we are dependent on? Shastras tell us that this supreme being enters us and gives us three things: pravriti, pravriti, pramiti, and satta. So satta, pramiti, and pravriti. Satta means it gives things their reality, gives things their objecthood of knowledge, and gives things their purpose and action, impulsion. So even our ability to learn Shrotavya and Mantavya, our ability to even meditate, we are dependent on the Supreme Being. And that essentially is captured by the last word, Prachodayat. So Vidmahe, Dhimahi, and Prachodayat is a constant sequence that you will see in many mantras within the Rig Veda Samhita that comes in Gayatri Chandas. Okay, hold on to that idea because we are going to come and deal with this in some detail in this particular Gayatri mantra as revealed by Vishwamitra. Okay, so now again we understood that this Gayatri mantra is called Gayatri mantra not just because it has 24 syllables. And I listed this 24 syllables for you. So yes, it is in Gayatri Chandas, but that does not mean that that is why it is called Gayatri Chandas. And we'll deal with it as we go along. Now here's another important number also. The number 24 is important in Vedic philosophy. We have done so many numbers over the last several months. We've learned about 3, we've learned about 5, we have learned about 7, we have learned about 6, we have learned about 16, we have learned about 18. So here is a number now, 24. So 24 is a significant number in Vedic philosophy. And there are 24 syllables in Gayatri Chandas. And so there are 24 syllables in the Gayatri mantra. Now, when you split the Gayatri mantras into words, there are 10 words. Tat, Savituhu, Varaniyam, Bhargo, Devasya, Dhimahi, Diyo, Yo, Naha, Prachodayat. So there are 10 words. So there are significance to this. So again, as we have discussed before, everything in the Vedic literature has got a purpose. You could ask why there should be only 10 words, why there can't be 11 words, why there should be 24 letters, why can't there be 25 letters? Everything seems to have a significance. And when we conclude today's session, we will revisit this and understand what is the significance of 24 and what is the significance of 10. Okay, so let's go to the mantra directly. So the first word is what? Tat. So we have the first pada has tat, savituhu, varenyam. Okay, so let's look at the meaning of the first line. And that is the beauty of reading the Gayatri mantra and its philosophy. And as I've told you a million times, chadayanti iti chandamsi. So every word in the Vedas needs to be split open before we understand the true meanings of it. And that is what we should do before we understand Gayatri mantras. Yes, there are lots of other information available in transliterations and online and so on that is helpful to some extent, but you have to dig deep. Only then you will find all these pearls and diamonds of the philosophy of the Gayatri mantra. So what does the very first word means? Tat. This particular word itself is very significant. Tat. What does tat means? Does it mean just that? So the English word that actually comes from the Sanskrit word tat. So is that all to it? There is more to it. Vishwamitra is a very clever chap and he has intuited this great mantra. So it must have much deeper meaning of what tat actually means. So look at our Gita verse 17 and 23. Do we have a volunteer who would want to recite this verse, please? Anybody can take this one on. 17:23. Who wants to take this? Shall I call upon? Yeah, Neeta, please. Yeah, thank you. Go on.
Om Tat Saditi Nirdesho Brahmanastrividha Smritaha Brahmanastena Vedascha Yajñascha Vihitah Pura.
Thank you very much, Neetaji. So look at Krishna, what he said in chapter 7. I got 3 names made. What is that? Om, Tat, and Sat. He said, these are my names. Tat is my name, is what Krishna has declared in Gita. So that should give us a clue here as to what the Tat means when Vishwamitra has seen that mantra. Okay. So Acharya says, Tataha means Gunais Tataha. Yeah. Gunais Tataha equals Tat. Tat means Tataha. Tataha literally means that which pervades. Yeah. That which pervades is literally is called Tataha. And again, we have revised this before, worth thinking about it again. What does it mean when I say something that has pervaded? Something can pervade in time, in space, and in gunas or attributes. So let's look at it. Something that is pervaded in time. Brahman, Shri Tattva, and all the infinite jivas are all pervasive in time. Okay, that is where our pervasion as jivas stop. If you take Shri Tattva, her pervasion is in time and in space. Okay? But that is where her pervasion stops. Whereas for the Supreme Brahman, whom we call as Vishnu, for him it is all pervasion in time, in space, and attributes. So when you take all these three together, that being that is complete in all these three aspects is Tata, is Tat. So guna is tataha is tat. So the very first word is significant. It tells you about the supreme being who is not only all pervasive, but he is also an abode of infinite auspicious attributes. That is what Vishwamitra has seen in this mantra. So tat becomes very significant. And that tat is the same as Brahman. And we have done this again a million times. Ata kasmaduchyate brahmeti bruhandohi asmin gunaha. The meaning Brahman is also the same, that which has pervaded in time, space, and attributes. When we did our sutra, when Veda Vyasa said Atato Brahma Jignasa, we established that Brahma Shabdascha Vishnaveva. We established that that word Brahman means Vishnu. Why? Because Vishnu means Vishal Vyapto. Vish means that which has pervaded. So everything falls in place very nicely. Tat, Brahman, Vishnu, Sarvaha. So when you look at these words that come in the various Upanishads, there is a complete samanvaya there, and they are all saying the same things. So that is the significance of Tat. Now, Tatu can also mean other things in noun cases. So if you look at in grammar, and of course the English grammar that we have has directly been nicked from Sanskrit grammar. So you have sapta. Yeah, there are 7 ways in which noun cases can be: nominative, vocative, accusative, instrumental, dative, ablative, genitive, and locative. So those are all the various cases that are available. You can do your individual studies of grammar. But what I want to remind you here is when you see wherever in the mantras or in the Upanishads, you see the word tat, that, immediately these things should come to your mind. The 7 vibhaktis. Yeah. Tat adina, tat sadrishya, tasmin, tasmat, tasmai, tasya, tat prati. Those are all the various cases that can be used for tat. So here, the classic rendering is that tatu here has got 2 meanings. One is nominative case. That is what the literal that. That is a nominative case. But there is also a genetic case of, whose. So we will deal with that as we go along. That clue from what the tat means, we can infer that whilst we understand the rest of the Gayatri mantra. Okay, but the prime take-home message about Tatu is that which has pervaded in time, space, and attributes. Note, the very first word recited by Vishwamitra or Chaturmukha Brahma in the Brahma Gayatri, and the same Gita talks about that is my name, Om Tat Sat. Okay, so that becomes significant. Now here is an amazing next word that comes, that is placed immediately after tat. That is savituhu, savitru. You can say savitru or you can say savituhu. Okay, so what is this Savituhu? Yeah, and I think in the first session that we did on Gayatri Mantra, we discussed about whether this Savituhu means the sun or it is somebody else. Okay, so I have a quite a busy slide here, but I want you to be thinking about four different concepts about what the sun Savitu actually means. So Savituhu in a very superficial sense could mean the sun. The sun, as we know in our solar system, is the giver and sustainer of life. Without the sun, there is no life on earth. It is because of the sun there is rain, and because there is rain, there are crops. Because there are crops, there is food. Because there is food, beings are born and they are alive and they are able to sustain. So in that sense, sun is the giver and sustainer of life. So fair enough that we want to say thank you to the sun and worship the sun. But is that all to it? When I say Savituhu, is that what Vishwamitra is talking about? Mind you, Vishwamitra is in deep meditation and he is thinking about Brahman. He is thinking about the supreme being. And in this same verse, the first word was Tataha, all pervasive. Is this sun all pervasive? The material sun that you see, is it all pervasive? No, it is not. It is there in one particular location. The rays may be going everywhere in the solar system, but it clearly is not the material sun, is what the Vedas are telling us. Now, I also want to tangentially to another angle about the sun, and I just feel that it might be interesting because this concept of the sun as a deity of worship is not unique to Sanatana Dharma. Okay, if you look at many of the world philosophies, sun and the contemplation of the sun is interesting, is important. And we all know about this Egyptian god who's called Ra. Yeah, Ra, the sun god, who is the sustainer and giver of life in Egyptian system. And this sun, the worshipping of the sun is not unique, was not unique just to the Egyptian philosophies, but across Africa, across Aztecs, across various other religions, sun has played an important role as a form of worship. And again, that is not surprising because this Ra, look at in Sanskrit, what is the name of sun? The sun is called Ravi. Ravi means sun. And the same Ra of Ravi becomes the Ra of the Egyptian mythology. So I hope you find it interesting because everything seems to be linked up to it. Yeah. So sun plays an important role in our contemplation, not just because we wake up and see it outside and then say, oh, this is so awesome and wonderful, so let's worship it. No, because as in the first week of our Gayatri Mantra, I told you about who this Savituhu is, and we said, and we looked at a lot of evidence, both from Purusha Shukta and other places. But I've just listed just to remind you just a couple of verses. One from, of course, the Purusha Shukta, which comes in Kshudra Shukta Mahashukta Mandala, the 10th mandala of the Rigveda Samhita. And what does it say there? Chandrama Manaso Jataha Chakshur Suryo Ajayata. Okay, there is the clue of the Rig Veda itself, which says Chakshuhu Suryo Ajayata, means where what that mantra says is from the eyes of the Supreme comes the Surya. So that Surya cannot be the material Surya because this Brahman is non-material. So something else is coming from the eyes of the Surya of the Brahman, and that Surya there is the Surya Devata. That is how you read that. Okay, so that gives you a clue that perhaps maybe this is talking about the Surya Devata who is inside the sun. Possible. The same 10th mandala also talks about Surya Chandramaso Data Yata Purvam Akalpayat. So this sun comes in every creation. It is the same the sun material comes, sun comes. But who is the creator of the material sun? Talks about this Data. Exactly how the previous sun was created in the previous creation, similarly the sun of the present creation is created. Okay, so the sun there definitely does not mean the material sun. It means somebody possibly inside the sun. And then Gita, of course, the 15th verse, 12th one says, Yad Aditya Gatam Tejo Jagat Basayate Akhilam. Yeah, the material sun emits sun rays not on its own accord. It is because I am inside the sun and I am making it function that way. So there comes your clue. When you look at all these things, perhaps this Savitu is the name of the indweller or the Antaryamin of the Surya Devata who is inside the sun. So that is what we sort of concluded when we did the first session on the Gayatri Mantra. Now, I want to here introduce you a very interesting philosophical discussion that happens in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, and I'll come to it a little bit later. But this is just to give you a different angle to it. So there is a particular Brahmanam in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad called Ajata Shatru Brahmanam. Some of you might have heard about this. Some of you might have read Ajata Shatru Brahmanam. It's a very interesting story. Essentially, it's a very interesting incident. Essentially, about a Brahmana. He started off as a Drupta Balaki, as he is called. Balaki is the name of this Brahmin, and the Upanishad says is Drupta Balaki. Drupta Balaki means some full of ego. Drupta means full of ego. So this is an egoistic Brahmana who actually goes to this king, who is a Kshatriya. He goes to Ajata and he boasts about his knowledge. He says, look, I know everything about God and I know how to worship God and I will teach you. So Ajatashatru is a highly exalted, knowledgeable, philosophical Kshatriya. His knowledge of the Supreme Being is way above this egoistic Brahmana called Balaki. So there is a conversation that happens between them. And in that, the very first pratika or the deity that Balaki talks about is, and I'll read it for you, it's interesting. Sahovacha, Gargyo ya eva, asau aditye purushe, yetam eva aham brahma upasa iti. Sahovacha, ajata shatru, mama etasmin samvadishta. Atishtaha sarvesham bhutanam murda raja itiva aham yetam upasa iti. So what that essentially means is, so they start out this conversation about how to worship the Supreme, what kind of pratika or symbols that we use to worship the Supreme, and they have this discussion. And the very first pratika that Balaki says is, I worship the sun. Yeah, so Aditye Purushaha, I worship that Supreme Being who is inside the sun. Yeah, that is the greatest worship, is what Balaki is telling us, which seems okay when you look at it superficially. But here is a deeper philosophy. As I said, here is a Kshatriya who is much more knowledgeable than this egoistic Brahmana. And he says, no, just worshipping the Supreme Being in the sun is not good enough. Okay, there is the sun, there is the sun devata, and inside the sun devata is the Antaryamin, and you are saying there is this, inside the sun is the Surya Narayana, and I am going to worship him. Just worshipping him as Surya Narayana is not going to take you anywhere. So Ajata Shatru is actually talking about a deeper level of philosophy with regards to how the contemplation and upasanas that is taught to us in the Upanishads and Gita should actually happen. He immediately, when this Balaki says this, what Ajata Shatru says is, don't tell me this. I worship that Surya Narayana as Atishtaha Sarvesham Bhutanam Murda Raja Itiva Aham Etam Upasa Iti. So he puts some profound words there. He talks about Atishtaha Sarvesham Bhutanam Murda Raja Iti. So he says, do you know that Surya Narayana who is there inside the sun, whom now we are discussing as Savituhu, and I hope it makes relevance here. Because we are discussing this Savituhu, we have to take up this particular incident where Ajata Shatru is reminding us, just thinking about the Surya Narayana and the sun is not good enough, mate. What you should know is who that Surya Narayana is. What kind of attributes are you going to be thinking about that Surya Narayana when you do Upasana? And Ajata Shatru says, Atishtaha Sarvesham Bhutana Murda and Raja. He says, you know that Surya Narayana, I worship him as the abode of three preeminent attributes. Atishtaha, Sarvesham Bhutana Murda, Raja. Okay. So what are these three attributes? To understand what the gravity of what Ajata Shatru is telling us, we should actually go and understand the rest of the Gayatri mantra properly in its full etymological sense. When you understand that, then you understand the beauty of what Ajata Shatru is actually teaching. Look at our system. We have discussed this before in the Vedic times. Everything was vertical. Yeah, a Kshatriya teaching a Brahmana, and all those things was happening everywhere. Knowledge is important, not by birth. Nobody is knowledgeable by birth. You are knowledgeable by your swabhava and your attributes. And here is a great king who is teaching an egoistic Brahmana. I come to that, what that Atishtaha is, Sarvesham Bhutana Murda is, and Raja in the next slides. We still haven't finished with who the Savitu is. The fourth concept that we should know about what that Savituhu is very, very, very important. I can't stress enough, because the etymology of the word Savituhu is entirely different from what people seem to think it to be. Yeah, in the colloquial sense, it might mean the sun, but actually, Savituhu comes from the Sanskrit word prasavita. Prasavita equals Savituhu. Look at that word prasavita. Okay, I have brought another word here called prasava. Okay, who is going to tell me what is the meaning of prasava, either in Hindi or in Tamil or in Kannada or any of the Indian languages? What does prasava mean? Can I have some volunteers, please? What is prasavam? Prasava means.
In Kannada, it is to have a baby, deliver.
Yeah, in Tamil is pregnancy.
Brilliant. So prasava, delivery. Sheilaji, thank you very much. So prasava means delivery. Yeah, and why do we use the word prasava? Because it comes from the Sanskrit root word prasavita. Prasavita literally means prasavita jagato janaka iti savita sute iti savita. That is the root etymology of savita. That means he who delivers the universe. A mother delivers a baby, so we call it as prasava. Okay, who delivers the universe? It is a supreme being who delivers the universe. So that meaning, that prasavita, comes from the supreme being. It is a name of the supreme being. Prasavita, he is called Prasavita because Prasavita Jagato Janaka iti Savita. Sute iti Savita. So I hope you are able to appreciate what the gravity of that word is, because that is the very first sutra of Badarayana, Janmadhyasya Yataha. The second sutra of Badarayana, which is Janmadhyasya Yataha, which is the definition of the supreme being. Who is the supreme being? Atato Brahma Jignasa. You are saying, then therefore Brahman inquiry shall begin. But who is this fellow? Badarayana immediately says, Janmadhyasya Yataha. He who has brought world, created the world and other bits and bobs. So that delivery of the universe is Prasavita. Mundaka Upanishad, we have done this beautiful verse during our discussions on creation, where we said, Yata Urnanabihi Srujate Gruhnate cha Yata Pruthivyam Oshadayaha Sambhavanti Yata Sataha Purusha Eshalomani Tata Aksharat Sambhavati Iha Vishwam. There, the very first word, few words become very interesting. Yata Urnanabihi Srujate Gruhnate cha. And it compares how this delivery of the universe comes from Brahman. It's like how the spider from its womb makes the web and then it withdraws the womb back. Exactly the same way this creation of the universe happens, and that is what is the root word meaning for Savituhu. Savituhu comes from Prasavita, and Prasavita means he who has delivered the universe. So I hope I'm giving you an entirely different angle to how to look at Gayatri Mantra. When you look at this from these aspects, it's exciting, it's beautiful, it just fits into our Vedic Sanatana Dharma perfectly. Why is that the case? Let's look at the next word. So the next word, what it says, Varenyam. It says Tataha Savituhu Varenyam. So that Varenyam, you should read it as Varaniyam. Okay, let's not go into the details of it, but essentially Varaniyo Bhajaniyo iti Varenyaha. Varenyaha means that which is adorable, that which is worshipable. Yeah. So tat savituhu varenyam, and equate it with the first two sutras of Badarayana. Atato Brahma Jignasa. We said Brahman is the same as Tataha because he is all pervasive. Now, he is all pervasive in time, space, and gunas. Now, the question there, and I probably will open it up for discussion for a minute. Janmadhyasya Yataha is the second sutra where Badarayana has said he is the creator, etc. of the universe. Why did he say he is the creator, etc. of the universe? He could have said he is Satchitananda, Om Satchitananda Om. He could have just said that, isn't it, as a definition of Brahman? Or he could have said Om Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma Om. But why did he say Janmadhyasya Yataha? Why did he bring the characteristic definition of Brahman as the creator of the universe, etc.? So anybody wants to tackle that question? Okay, no worries. So I'll just sail through this. By the concept of creatorship of the universe, which is what Savituhu is all about in the Gayatri mantra, what Vedavyasa is actually telling us is, for us mundane beings, so we are all mundane beings in the samsara, right? How are we going to understand the gunapurnatva of Brahman? How are we going to understand the greatness of the Supreme Being? There must be some example that we should be given so that we can understand how great this person is and that how he is an abode of infinite auspicious qualities. And Sutakara takes a very easy definition, but a very profound definition, saying, creator of the universe. Look, this universe is so vast. It's so wonderful. It is so variegate. Okay. If this universe is so amazing, then the person who created this universe, then by definition must be amazing with infinite auspicious attributes. So that is the reason why he puts this definition as Janmadhyasya Yataha, so that we have a glimpse of the greatness of the Supreme Being and his guna purnatva. Yeah? And that exactly is the sequence in the Gayatri as well. Tataha and then Savituhu. Because he is Tataha, he is Savituhu, he is Varenyam. So Varaniyo Gunona. Because he is Gunapurna, he is the creator of the universe, he is adorable. Yeah, we just don't adore somebody just like that. There is a reason why the Supreme Being has to be adored, because he is all pervasive and he is the creator of this universe. Okay, so I hope you understand how the first pada of Gayatri actually moves. Tataha, Tataha, Savituhu, Varaniyam. What is the next word? What is the next pada? It says Bargo Devasya Dhimahi. Okay, so these two words, so immediately what Vishwamitra is telling us is, after he has said he is Tataha and he is Savituhu, he is Varenyam, and then he qualifies, but he is adorable now because he is also got a few other qualities. What is that? Bhargaha and Devasya. We'll come to these two words next, but let's first understand what Dhimahi means. Dhimahi, so that itself is interesting. Dhimahi is in plural. Okay. We meditate. Look at the approach of Vishwamitra and our sages. We meditate. That is all of us jivas, we meditate on this Supreme Being as Bhargaha and Devaha. Yeah. So again, remember that plurality that is brought in here, not singular, plurality. Hold on to that idea. I'm going to come to that at the end of this talk. So what does Bhargaha actually means? Yeah. So again, as I said, break it open. Only you break the words open, you will get the meanings of these words. Yeah. So Bhargaha, Ba Rati Jnana Rupatvat Bhargaha. So what does that mean? Bhargaha, Ba, Rati and Ga. These together form Bhargaha. There is no controversies there. What is Ba? Ba, Bhaskara. Sun's name is Bhaskara. Why is sun called Bhaskara? Because Ba means it's effulgent, light. It is lustrous. So sun is called Bhaskara because he is lustrous, effulgent, and light. Similarly, the Supreme Being's name is also called Bhargaha because he is Bha. He is lustrous, effulgent, and he is full of light. But we have said this Brahman is not made of matter. He is not the sun. He is not material. So what kind of light? Because the photons that the suns emit is material. Yeah. But he is not made of photons. So what is he made of? Again, Bhargaha gives you the answer because next what are the next two components? Rati and Gaha. Rati means Ananda. Okay. Gaha comes from Gam. Gam means to go. And in Sanskrit lexicon, to go means to know. To know means knowledge. So full of knowledge. So this Bha, this light, this effulgent being is Jnananandamaya. His light is Jnananandamaya. Okay. So that is what Vishwamitra has seen here. When you say Bhargaha, this is the meaning. He is a Jnananandamaya entity. He is full of Jnananandamaya. Okay. To go, to know is knowledge. Light in philosophy, in Vedic philosophy, light generally means knowledge. Yeah. Darkness means ignorance. And we have done it so many times. Darkness implies ignorance, light implies knowledge. Look at this Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. It's a very popular Upanishad. So many of you will know this. Yeah. Asatoma sadgamaya, tamasoma jyotirgamaya, mrityorma amritam gamaya. This mantra that is popularly recited actually appears in the first adhyaya of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Pavamana Upasana. It's an amazing chapter in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Read that. But there, Jyotihi, Tamaso, Tamas means darkness or ignorance. Tamaso ma there means we don't want ignorance. Jyotir, Gamaya, we need knowledge. So light implies knowledge in Vedic philosophy. So similarly, this light here would imply this light which is full of knowledge and Ananda. So there goes your next definition of Brahman that Vishwamitra has seen. Tataha is a name of Brahman. Savituhu is a name of Brahman. Now Bhargaha, he qualifies this being as he is Bhargaha. And again you see here Dhimahi. Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi. Yeah, so what does Dhimahi there means? We meditate. And as I said, plurality of cells. Dhyeyo Akhilair Janaihi. It is in plural. Yeah, so all of us meditate on the Supreme Being as Bhargaha. Okay, hope that makes sense. Now, Devasya. Yeah, so now the next interesting concept there is Devasya. So he has said, Tat Savituhu Varenyam. Because you are Tataha, you are Savituhu, you are adorable. This adorable person is Bhargaha because he is full of Jnananandamaya and he is Devaha, Devasya. Yeah. So the Devaha there is significant because the word Devaha has got 7 different meanings there. Deva means not just Deva, oh, some god. No. Deva means 7. Its etymology comes from 7 different concepts. Divu Kridayam Devaha, Divi, Divu Vijigishayam Devaha, Divu Vyavahare Devaha, Divu Dyuti Devaha, Divu Stuti Devaha, Divu Kanti Devaha, Divu Gati Devaha. So wherever you read Deva, you need to think about what these things mean. In that one word Deva, our language has actually given us so many ideas. And that is why I keep saying it's almost impossible to deliver a lecture in English about the profound philosophy of Gayatri mantra, because some of the words that are there has got so many meanings that we cannot actually capture in English language. Nevertheless, an attempt has to be made to convey the beauty of the language. And this is the beauty of the language with this word Devaha. Divu Kridayam. Krida means play. And we know that this creation is a play for the Supreme. It tells you about the creation. Divu Vijigishayam. Vijigishayam means he is beyond and above all that exists in the universe. And that is all the last 5 verses of chapter 15 of Purushottama Yoga is all about. Kshara, Akshara, and Purushottama, talking about the Purushottama who is beyond and above all. Divu Vyavahare, everything in the material universe happens because of his impulsion, as I told you before. Satta, Pratiti, Prabhiti, and Pravriti. Pravriti, everything happens because of him. Divu Dyuti, light, knowledge. Divu Stiti, Sarva Shabdavachatvas. Divu Stuti, not Stiti, Divu Stuti. That means every sound is an epithet of God, and that we have done from Aitareya Upanishad and other areas that we have discussed over the last several months. Divu Kanti, that means his icha, his Satya Sankalpa. What he wishes happens. He thinks and it happens. Divu Gati, Sarvagata, Sarvagnya. So all those concepts are compressed in this particular word Devaha. So again, Vishwamitra says, Tat Savituhu Varenyam Bargaha Devasya. This Bargaha and this Devasya Dhimai, we meditate. So this Deva is an interesting word and an important word, because Deva primarily means supreme being. There are other devas that are there, deities, the demigods, or what devatas that you want to call in our Vedic pantheon. But primarily, there is only one deva. Shvetashvatara Upanishad, famous verse, 6th Adhyaya. What does it say? Eko devaha, sarveshu gudaha, sarva vyapi, sarva bhutantaratma, karmadi akshaha, sarva bhutadi vasaha, sakshi cheto kevalo nirgunascha. Okay, look at the beauty of this word. This particular verse is important for various schools of Vedanta. One school of Vedanta has plucked just this word. Oh, nirguna, nirguna. Oh, the supreme being is nirguna. He is a useless, empty zero with no attributes. That is one school of view. The other school will say, guys, look at all the adjectives that have been told about this Brahman. Ekaha, Devaha, Sarva Bhuteshu Gudaha, Sarva Vyapi, Sarva Bhutantaratma, Karmadi, Akshaha, Sarva Bhutadi Vasaha, Sakshi, Cheta, Kevalo. There are so many attributes that have been celebrated. And then at the end, Nirgunashta is put. So what that means, Nirguna there means he is an abode of non-material attributes. Okay, that is the meaning of Nirguna. Guna means material gunas. He doesn't have material gunas, so he is called Nirguna. That is how some other schools of Vedanta discuss. But anyway, that's besides the point. My main focus here is to talk about Devaha. And what does it say? Eko Devaha. Okay, there is, if you take literally, Eko Devaha means there is only one supreme being. He is called Devaha. Okay, now I think this is important because we all talk about Gayatri as Veda Mata. We say she is Veda, this Gayatri mantra is Veda Mata. What does the Veda Mata literally means? Mother of all the Vedas. What does that mean? That this is the most important verse of the Vedas that we celebrate and we use. It is such an important verse. And what does that verse so far told us? In all the verses that is there in the Gayatri mantra, Om, Asesha Gunodhara iti Narayano Apyaso, Bhu, Purno, Bhuvaha, Bhutivaraha, Suvaha, Ananta Sukhaha, Tat, that which pervades. Pervasion is an attribute. Savituhu, that which creates. Creatorship is an attribute. Bargaha, Jnananandamaya is an attribute. Devasya, 7 meanings of Devasya is an attribute. So this Vedamata Gayatri is talking about Brahman as Gunapurna Doshadura entity. Yeah, and that is important from what Vishwamitra is telling us. And also there is another word, Prachodayat. I'm going to come to that next. Prachodayat, what that means, it is telling us he impels things to happen. That means he has action. He is not an inert entity. He is constantly doing things. Yeah, all these attributes tell us that this is this Brahman who is Gunapurna and Doshadura, and not an entity, at least from a Vishwamitra's perspective, who is inert, attributeless, doesn't do any action, doesn't have any qualities, just there, and he himself does not know that he exists. Yeah, so that is not what the Gayatri mantra is telling us, and that is what I'm trying to impress upon you here. So what is the next verse says? Diyo yo naha prachodayat. Diya is easy. That's an easy word. Diyaha means it could be thoughts, intellect. Yaha means who, which. That's Savitru. Savitru namaka paramatma. Naha, look at this word again. Naha. Naga means for us all, our. Motivate. Prachodayat, motivate. So what does that mean? Prerako asesha buddhinam. He who inspires or motivates our thought, or which inspires or motivates our thought, or that inspires or motivates our thought. So this is why, as I said, the very first word tat, and I said tat, that 7 vibhaktis, I told you about 2 vibhaktis, nominative case and genitive case. So that here is a nominative case, which becomes a genitive case. So you can look at it in different aspects, this mantra. So that or who inspires or motivates our thought, or which inspires or motivates our thoughts. Yeah. Diyo yo naha prachodaya. So what does it mean? This one here. So we have so far understood the knowledge that we have gained, but to know that knowledge and to be able to meditate on that knowledge, the Rishi is saying, I am such a dependent being. Please help me, please motivate me, please impel me so that I get these thoughts. Please motivate my intellect. Please motivate all of our intellects. Please motivate all of our thoughts so that we can worship you as who? As Bhargaha, as Devaha, as Savituhu, as Tataha. Yeah. And why is this Rishi telling us? As I told you before, we all know that we are dependent beings, and Keno Upanishad talks to us in so many words, and we have done it before. Maybe one day we will take up Keno Upanishad and look at it from word by word. Keneshitam patati preshitam manaha, Kena pranaha pratamaha praiti yuktaha, Keneshitam vacham imam vadanti, Chakshuhu shrotram kavudevo yunakti. So this is Chaturmukha Brahma. This is Rudra asking that question to Chaturmukha Brahma. How does the mind work? How does all these indriyas work? How is it that I'm not able to control my mind and thought processes? My mind goes astray everywhere. This is Rudra asking Chaturmukha. And Chaturmukha says, Shrotrasya Shrotram Manasa Mano Yashaha Vacham Savu Pranasya Pranaha Chakshushash Chakshuhu Atimucha Dhiraha Pretya Asmad Lokad Amruta Bhavati. This is the final statement. He says, that being who is inside the mind and impels the mind, that being which is inside the indriyas and impels the indriyas, that is the supreme being. Pranasya Prana, as Chaturmukha says. So that is why our Rishi is saying here, Prachodayat, impel me to these thoughts, motivate me, because I am so dependent, I can't do this. Unless I have your grace, I can't even have those positive thoughts, is what this is the worship that Vishwamitra is actually doing for the Supreme Being. So I hope you find this interesting, because I'm going to now come back to the story. Why should we meditate on Gayatri? As I told you before, this dialogue between Ajatashatru and Balaki. And Balaki, Dutta Balaki, the more arrogant, egoistic fellow, he said, Sahovacha Gargya eva, Asav Aditye Purusho etameva aham Brahma upasa iti, Sahovacha Ajatashatru ma etasmin samvadishta, Atishtaha sarvesham bhutanam murda raja iti va aham. Yetam upasayiti. So that is important there. Atishtaha. Atishtaha means that which has surpassed and is beyond everything. Okay. Sarvesham bhutanam murda. Murda means head. Head of what? Sarvesham bhutanam. Bhutas mean what? All the sentient beings. Sarvesham means all the sentient beings. He is the head of all the sentient beings. Who is the Purushottama? Raja means what? Ranjayiti iti rajaha. That which is lustrous, that which is effulgent, that which is emitting light, that which is jnananandamaya. That is how I am going to worship this supreme being who is inside the sun. Why? Saya yetameva upaste atishtaha sarvesham bhutanam murda raja bhavati. Okay, he says, he who worships this Gayatri inside the sun as atishtaha sarvesham bhutanam murda raja iti, he also becomes that kind of jiva. And we have done this before. Tam yata yata upasate sa tataiva bhavati. So if you worship the Surya Narayana as Atishtaha, who is surpassed everyone, one day you will get your moksha and you would have surpassed all the jivas who are still in samsara. And if you worship the Surya Narayana as a Raja, that which is full of Jnananandamaya, lustrous and effulgent, one day you will reach your moksha where you become your type of Jnananandamaya. Okay, and that is what is the message of Ajata Shatru to Balaki. I think directly inspired by what Vishwamitra has said, because at the end of the day, we just can't say Gayatri Mantra and get on with our lives. We need to understand what is the message of the Gayatri Mantra. And my humble request is that we approach the Gayatri Mantra in the spirit of how Ajata Shatru has done and instructed to Balaki. Understand the attributes of the Supreme that is described in the Gayatri Mantra. Try and worship the Supreme with those attributes, and then eventually you may also attain liberation. But at the end of the day, that is what this whole purpose of this journey is, isn't it? That we want to get rid of all our karmas, we want to get rid of the samsara, and then we cross over to the other side. Yeah. And here is the, for those of you who are interested in the Ajata Shatru Brahmanam, perhaps maybe you want to do your homework tonight. There is a whole lot of discussion that Balaki and Ajata Shatru talk about, and finally Ajata Shatru says, you know what, there are so many pratikas or the images of the Supreme or the concepts that you can worship. You can worship the Supreme Being is in the sun. You can worship him in the moon. You can worship him in Akasha. You can worship it in air. You can worship him in Prithvi. You can worship him in Agni. You can do whatever you want. But Ajata Shatru finally will finish the most important pratika, the most important upasana that you have to do that will eventually take you to liberation is the Bimbarupa Upasana, which means that Supreme Lord who is actually inside you. There is no point in going to pilgrimages and all the temples and do all sorts of pujas if we do not make an effort to actually look inside our own Antaryamin and aim to see our own Bimbarupa. That is the only solution, so says Vedantasutra. That is what is the clear dictum given to us by Veda Vyasa, that unless we see our Antaryamin inside, there is no scope for moksha. Okay. Who is this Antaryamin? This Antaryamin is the same Antaryamin who is in the Surya Nara, in the Surya Devata. And that is why Taittiriya Upanishad says, Sa yascha ayam purushe yashtasau aditye sa ekaha. Saha yashcha ayam purushe. That Purusha who is inside me. Yashcha asau. That fellow who is there far away, that Aditya. He is the same person who is inside. Okay, so we should immediately link up this Brahmanda concept and bring it immediately to the Pindanda concept, because we should all be doing that same Gayatri mantra with the same spirit, not just as the Surya Narayana in the sun, but that the same Surya Narayana is our all Antaryamin inside the Jivas. Okay, so that is a clear message of Ajata Shatru in Ajata Shatru Brahmanam, or the first Adhyaya of Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. So I think we are coming to the tail end of the presentation. So I just want, these are a couple of summary slides. So what did we do so far? We discussed who Gayatri is. Gayatecha, Trayatecha. The etymology coming from Chandogya Upanishad as to what Gayatri actually means. Then we said Om Bhur Bhuva Swaha Tat Savituhu Bhargaha Devasya. These are all the description of the Supreme. So what do we understand from this? Within the Gayatri Mantra. So one thing that we have understood within the Gayatri Mantra is it celebrates this Supreme Being, Brahman, who has got so many infinite names, but for our Upasana, we have used a few here. He is this one independent Supreme of infinite auspicious attributes. There cannot be any controversy here of the Gayatri mantra, because the words bhu, bhuvaha, swaha, tat, savituhu, bhargaha, devasya, they are all describing attributes of the Supreme. Okay, so he is Gunapurna Doshadur. First point. Second point, there are so many plurals here. Naha, Dimahi. Naha means for us all. Dimahi means we all meditate. So it is immediately give you an idea of plurality of cells. There is plurality of jivas in Gayatri mantra. The philosophy of the Gayatri talks about the plurality of the jivas and the supremacy of Brahman. And when it says prachodayat, please impel us to think about you. Immediately it should the idea should dawn upon you of dependence. If we are independent, we don't want somebody to impel us. Because we are dependent, we are praying for the Supreme himself to impel us to have those noble thoughts about the Supreme. So it tells us about our dependence. So Brahman is the Swatantro Bhagavan Vishnuhu. And we have established that on a million times. So that is the message of the Gayatri. In a deeper sense, it talks about the plurality of selves, one independent Brahman, and our dependence on the Supreme Brahman, which is exactly the message of the chapter 15, verse 16 to 20, that by now we are all experts on actually not only reciting those verses, but also to know the meaning of those verses. Okay, so I hope you are able to understand another level of philosophy of Gayatri mantra. So to conclude, Gayatri mantra is actually Vishnu mantra in Gayatri Chandas. Why? Yadadityagatam tejo jagadbhasate akilam. Krishna has said, I am inside that sun doing it. One evidence. Antar bahishta tat sarvam vyapya narayana stitaha. The supreme chap who is all pervaded, he is called Narayana. And the same fellow who is pervaded everywhere is also celebrated as Brahman. That Brahman is Vishnu because of the etymology of Vishnu. And what do the Veda says? That Vishnoho paramam padam sada pashyanti surayaha. Vishnurnukam virnani parovocham yaha parthivani vimame rajamsi. Paro matraya tanva vridana nate tvam anvashnuvanti nate Vishnoho jayamano najato deva mahimnaha paramantamapa. These are all verses of Rig Veda which categorically establish this Vishnu Sarvottamatva. Katha Upanishad finishes off saying, Tad Vishnoho paramam padam. Our aim should be to reach his feet, his abode. Tad Vishnoho paramam padam. And Gayatri mantra, which is such a small 24 syllables, 3 padas, is our first step to reach that abode. So Gayatri mantra is Vishnu mantra in Gayatri Chandas. Now here is the why have I said this? This sounds like a big claim, but I've given you a lot of evidence to show that. But here is another way of looking at it. I told you about the 10 words of the Gayatri mantra. What are those 10 words of the Gayatri mantra? They denote the 10 avatars of Vishnu. Okay, so each word corresponds to a particular avatars of Vishnu. Yeah? So that may be for another day as to how each word describes the avatars of Vishnu. But I just want to take the 9th one, Buddha Avatara. And we have discussed this on a few occasions as to how can this Vishnu himself come down and then say that I do not exist, everything is an illusion, and so on and so forth. And I gave you some hint at that point that the philosophy of the Vishnu Avatara Buddha is that philosophy and what currently prevails are different. Okay, and the proof for that is the current prevailing system that is there has got 4 different views and approaches. They have their own internal controversies and they don't agree with each other, the 4 subsections that are there in that school. But from a Vedic perspective, I have told you that the Gayatri mantra, the 9th word Naha, Naha denotes Buddha Avatara. Why? Naha, na means no. No means what? Neti neti atma. Atma. So that concept of Neti Neti Atma should come to you. What is Neti Neti Atma? It is a name of the Supreme. Why? Naha is a name of the Supreme. Why? Because he is not this, he is not this, he is not that, means he is nothing material. He is totally transempirical. So Naha denotes no, means does not mean nothing exists. What the no there means is he is not material. Now here is another word I wanted to take up. This is just to give you a hint. We can again discuss it in detail at some later point. Shunya. Shunya is the name of Vishnu. Okay, this might come as a surprise, but actually not. Why? Because Shunya is not zero or nothingness. Shunya has got an etymology. What is Shunya? Shu. Shu comes from Sham. What is Sham? Shanno Mitraha, Sham Varunaha. You know those mantras. Sham means bliss. So Shu plus Na means no bliss. Who has no bliss? Those of us in samsara. So the samsarins do not have bliss. What does Ya stands for? Niyamaka or Yapayati. Niyamaka means he who is a controller. So there you have your answer. Shu na ya means the inner controller of all the jivas who are in samsara. Your antaryamin. Your antaryamin is shunya. That is the Vedic way of looking at what shunya means. The current prevailing meaning of shunya is entirely different. Good luck to them. But we are the followers of the Sanatana Dharma. For us, the ninth word Naha denotes Buddha, who is the avatar of Vishnu, who implies something totally different. Again, I hope you find that interesting. So coming back, the 10 words of Gayatri mantra denotes 10 avatars of Narayana. What about 24? Okay, so I'd hope Shushrut is here to recite the 24 for us, or anybody else, Sudarshan, anybody can recite this, because most of us do this on a regular basis. When we do Sandhya Vandana, for example, you recite the 24 names of the Supreme. Why do you recite the 24 names of the Supreme? Not because it is there in a book or because it is a random. No, the Gayatri mantra has got 24 syllables, and each syllable of the Gayatri mantra celebrates a particular form which indicates an attribute of the Supreme. So what I want to do is finish off today by one of our friends reciting these 24 names of the Supreme, and we close the Gayatri mantra. So either Sushrut, Sudarshan, or anybody else want to volunteer here, please.
What to chant those?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Yeah, fine. Om Sri Keshavaya Namaha, Om Sri Narayanaaya Namaha, Sri Madhavaya Namaha, Sri Govindaya Namaha, Sri Vishnave Namaha, Sri Madhusudanaya Namaha, Om Sri Trivikramaya Namaha, Om Sri Vamanaya Namaha, Sridharaya Namaha, Rishikeshaya Namaha, Padmanabhaya Namaha, Damodaraya Namaha, Sankarshanaya Namaha, वासुदेवाय नमः प्रद्युम्नाय नमः अनिरुद्धाय नमः पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः अतोक्षजाय नमः नरसिंहाय नमः अच्युताय नमः जनार्दनाय नमः उपेन्द्राय नमः हरये नमः कृष्णाय नमः.
Thank you, Sudarshan. So there you have that we recite every day or at least once a week. Those 24 names of the Supreme Being are there because of the 24 syllables of the Gayatri mantra. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed, and I as much enjoyed actually describing the Gayatri mantra, because some of the things that I've discussed probably are quite new to some of you. But I just again want to impress that the Gayatri mantra, which is the quintessence of Vedic philosophy, the Veda mantra, this is how it should be approached. And next time when we all recite the Gayatri mantra, let us have this contemplation in us as to how we are approaching the Supreme Brahman as Tataha, Savituhu, Bhargaha, Devaha. Those 4 words are so important. and it captures the scope of the entire Vedic philosophy is actually compressed in those 4 words. And not surprisingly, Vishwamitra has seen this in deep meditation and has placed this in those sequences. So on that note, I'm going to close today's discussion. Krishna Pranamastu, and we can take some questions. And what I also want to do, Sudarshan, is I want to show the our survey monkey feedback as to what is the feeling from folks who join us on a fairly regular basis. What do they want to do next? Because we are now closing this section and we need to move on to something else, and we'll take a democratic vote on this one. Okay, so I'll close there.
Thank you, Madhu. Thank you for the wonderful talk again. I just wanted to ask first question is, you said about Prasavita, and what about Savitri? Is that related to that, Savitri?
Yeah, so Savitri is in the so as you know, Prasavita, Savitri is a Strilinga pada. Yeah, so Savitri denotes Lakshmi. Yeah, Savitri is the name of Lakshmi, and Lakshmi is also the creator of the universe through the Supreme Being. So that is how she also gets her name Savitri, or Savitri as it's called, which is Lakshmi's name. Because we did this before, isn't it, Sudarshan? Ambrini Shukta. You may remember the Ambrini Shukta. At some point, we said, she says, you know what? I can create anybody. I can create Rudra, Chaturmukha, Indra, and somebody else I can create, is what Lakshmi says in Ambrini Shukta of Rig Veda. But he says, Mama Yonihi Apswantaha Samudre. So she will say, but my creator is in that Samudra. That is Vishnu. Yeah. So yes, Lakshmi is also called Savitri, and again it comes from the similar etymology of creation of the universe.
Prasavita.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, the other first question is like with this one, do I need to, like, I'm just saying, somebody asked, this Gayatri mantra, is it the one I need to chant to get whatever, or because do I need to sort of qualify all these things to tell him to give me the knowledge, or can I just say, give me knowledge? Is it enough?
Yeah, you can say, of course, you can say, give me knowledge, but the Gayatri mantra gives you a framework. It gives you a framework in which you can actually do those prayers. Yeah. And as I said before, unless you approach the mantra with a particular contemplation behind it, you will not get what you want. We can't literally just recite the names without understanding the meanings of those words. I think once you understand the meaning of those words, not only will you be able to appreciate the mantra, but your upasana will become so much more deeper, and you will potentially be able to connect with your inner spirituality even more. So I think there are positives to be had, number one. Number two is, of course, the vibrations of these mantras. Many of the Rig Veda mantras, you start out with Om. That itself is, we have done sessions and sessions on the importance of Om. So you're starting from Om and then you're finishing with Prachodayat. The vibrations of the Rig Veda mantra themselves have a positive effect on our psyche, and we know all of that. But what we are doing is more a spiritual, philosophical contemplation. And unless we contemplate in understanding whom we are contemplating about, it somehow doesn't feel like we're doing it properly. That's my feeling, Sudarshan.
Okay, no, I agree. I agree. And I've just asked a question for everybody, but I agree. Like, it is much better to qualify and quantify, and in that process, also you understand the depth of what you are really asking, and you will be more
Yeah,
focused, and the results will be greater than just what you do. Okay, thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions, please?
Okay, so Sudarshan, looks like everybody's overwhelmed, or everybody's planning to have barbecues outside. So what I'll do is, I just want to share our um, feedback, Sudarshan. So I just want you to be there to just.
Yeah.
So what I was going to do is, thank you so much for everyone to completing the feedback survey. So we had, I think, 19 or 20. I think 21, and I think 2 came from another. I did unfortunately, it was my mistake. I sent out the survey twice. The first one had 19 results and the other one has 2 results. So I'm going to say together we have had 21 feedback. So if you look at our group, regularly about 25 of us, and if you multiply it by 2, every Sunday about 50 of us actually, 50 plus actually join and do this contemplation. So I would say that we have had feedback from about 50. I think one feedback is per family is how I would read it. So we have had about 50 feedbacks. And the first question I had asked was, how much do you support these activities of, weekly contemplation and reading our scriptures? The overwhelming answer is strongly support, which is always reassuring, Sudarshan, I think. And we had one response, somewhat support. I'll take it as support. So I think we have not had any opposition to what we have been trying to do. So this, I think, is a very biased result, because those of us who come to this meeting are the ones who complete these forms. So there is a bias in this data, but that's fine. So that is the first point. The second point is, this is what we need to discuss today, Sudarshan and all. I had put the question, would you like to continue these regular sessions? If so, at what frequency? So the first one is, everybody wants these sessions to continue. So that's amazing, because that as a collective team, I think we have a focus and we are determined to learn our shastras and have these interactive sessions and make it into a vibrant group. So that's great news for all of us. And also what I found very interesting, Sudarshan, is weekly, fortnightly, and monthly. So the results weekly, 42% want weekly sessions to continue, 30% want fortnightly sessions to continue. Okay, so again, the take home there is, we are all determined to have regular discussions on these kind of key aspects of Sanatana Dharma, which is again wonderful. But the key now is, now that this lockdown is behind us, I'm hoping it is behind us, and life is gradually getting back to some kind of normality. I just need, we Sudarshan and the rest of the Hindu Knowledge Academy team, we just need a feedback to say, where are we going to place ourselves now? Weekly seems to be more in favor compared to fortnightly. So shall I open it up for discussion, please?
I think, Madhu, one of the thing which I will say is, if we need to do it, it has to be weekly, because the thing is, anything which is not regular, it sort of people forget actually. If you start with fortnightly, they might sort of come only monthly, it fizzles out. That is the thing with any activity, not just with Upanishad, or even if you have a breakfast club, if like that. I'm just saying, it is the way it works. Everything has to be regular. The people sort of, it's incorporated into the schedule. That is whatever time. I'm not saying this particular time. Any time this particular activity is going on, any activity. If you're doing yoga on a Tuesday evening, that means it gets incorporated and it goes. Otherwise, if you do fortnightly, then you forget which fortnight it was, it is due or it is not due. So if we have to be continuing it, I mean, I know, like, maybe not everybody can attend every week. So if it's occasionally where they miss out, they can catch up with the YouTube sort of recordings. That is different. But if we don't do it weekly, it fizzles out. So so I would say weekly. I mean, more on the practical consideration, or how people respond. So you know
Yeah,
and the
yeah,
lockdown is itself is like, we don't know the lockdown is going to end or not, because of this new B17 whatever variant. And the second thing is, people will be still able to afford the Sunday 4 o'clock is like a time where, in on a weekday, on a week, like, school term times, the next day is a school, so many of us don't go anywhere. We are at home. So it's a good time. It's a Saturday means you can say, but if it's Sunday, most of us are at home. The general dictum is people go out on a Saturday evening, everything finished. Sunday is mostly at home, so it will still work out. It's a Zoom meeting anyway. So I mean, I would say it's better to continue Sunday 4 o'clock, but again, I will listen to other people as well.
But Madhu,
yeah.
only thing is like we are spending just that 1 hour, but you are spending the whole week thinking about this. So we need to consider.
Yeah, so okay, that's yeah, thanks, Chitra, for that also. So I think there are also a few comments that has come in the chat window as well. Pratibha Achar from Dubai, she agrees with Sudarshan. Neeta and Sushru, they are saying a lot to ask Madhu to do it every week. Paresh from Leicester is saying weekly makes it discipline and routine. So all points well made and well taken. So here is, can I suggest one thing in that case, Sudarshan? So I think, yes, we can agree that we carry on unless somebody else wants to raise their hands and come up and contribute here, please. Anybody else has a view on this? There are 21 of us here. Anybody has any other views, please share.
I think Madhu, we can do one thing for the future. We could have the guest sessions, maybe in a month you do it fortnightly. Your presentation, we can have two sessions where it is, we have something different. We have a bit of discussions. We have a question and answer sessions. Those sort of things which doesn't involve your active preparation in the week. So that's what I'm meaning. Where it still involves you, where you give the answers and we have a discussion where like that is sort of an activity happens, maybe a quiz, maybe something where you're not you're not doing all the hard work for that week. So maybe twice a week, twice a month you can have fortnightly where it's your lecture, and other times we can have some interesting activities which is still there, but it's not about you preparing whole week.
Yeah, sure. So that's from Charlotte in US is also of the same view. Weekly discussions possibly, but he also agrees with Neeta and Shushrut. So I think weekly, but slightly we do a bit of mix. We bring it into having various other contributions. That's a good idea, Sudarshan. So shall I suggest in that case, I do fortnightly, and then in between we can do two things here. One is, all the things that we have covered over the last 14, 16 months, maybe we should do revision. So these are all, these are bread and butter of Shastra, isn't it? All that we have done. This is bread and butter of Sanatana Dharma. Maybe we can go and do some revision every week, every other week, we can have revisions of what we have done before. So that is one. The other one, I also had a suggestion that maybe Gita recitation within the group, and then some kind of a combined study of Gitas. I mean, for example, I know Veena Kankanwadi ji, Neeta Kulkarni ji, they all do this. They've all been doing this for years. They've been doing this Gita recitation classes and so on. Whether there is appetite for that in this group, I don't know, but I'm just putting it on the table as one possibility. The other one is revision of all that has been done before. I think that will be really helpful for all of us. So revision one, next one is Gita. The third one is, of course, the visiting lectures and have invited speakers and so on. So those three are doable, I feel. What do you think? Pragnesh is also of the same view, weekly, but I think he is being sympathetic that I can go fortnightly as well.
I agree with Bhagavad Gita in some form.
Okay, Pragnesh, right. So shall we then in that case continue with that conversation and come up with a program? And do we think doing revision is a good idea?
Madhu, it's a very good idea.
Yes, Madhu, revision is very good. If we are told what to, each class we have done, if we revision 1 hour from that class, we have been doing, I think we have done about 50 recordings. I don't know.
60.
What 60 yeah.
Recordings are there.
Yeah. So every week, if we, or once in a month, if we do, 1 month class, I think it will be nice.
Thank you, Shilaji. Yeah, I think that's a good idea. So we can formalize. Maybe we can do second week or the fourth week of a month. Shall we say fourth week of a month is revision? Yeah, and then we can say second week of the month is Gita. What do we think?
Whether we can do
and then the first and the.
Sorry. Yeah, but I was just thinking, we can do revision quiz as well if that is what, if someone wants to, only from your slides, which is.
Yeah, any slide, any ideas, but to ruminate is good. So revision once a month with quiz and whatever format in which we want to do. So that can be, let's say that is a fourth week of the month. And then if we say the second week of the month will be Gita recitation or Gita related activities.
Yeah, but Madhu, I'm not sure about this. Let me be very frank. I'm not sure about the Gita recitation, and it has to be just a small part in that. Actually, just recitation, nobody is going to come and sit. So I think it's a question of it may be a very small part. That's all. It has to be, maybe you can say second week it's a Gita rehearsal, not rehearsal, sort of revision of the Gita, Purushottam Yoga, whatever. The fourth week is the revision of the general Upanishad. Yeah, it may be that, but just for recitation, nobody's going to come and sit. It's probably it won't work out. But you need to be. I mean, I'm afraid, but it's up to you. But you need to be there for all the 4 weeks at least. All the 4 weeks you need to be there. If people know you're not coming, so it might
If
just.
the head teacher doesn't come, the students won't come, Madhu.
Okay, sure, no problem. Of course, I'll be there.
Agreed,
Definitely in one for there. I may not be in my room, in this office, my study room, but I'll be around. Of course, I'll be there. Yeah,
You'll be in the meeting. Yeah, that's right. That's very
yeah,
important.
of course.
Yeah, I think the thing is, it will also give an opportunity, like you can say, next month quiz or something. Let somebody prepare. So it gives a focus on somebody else to do some work as well, and others are a group of people. A group of people to do some work, and we can, as I said, like one of the thing is we have been talking about Upanishad and everything. We could slightly move into other areas, just. About, just say, like one week, there may be a talk about Indus Valley civilization, something like that. I'm just giving an example. So it's still Indological, related to whatever we are doing. So it could be slightly different about history. It's about, 1 week it could be just about how Krishna Deva Raya, how much he has contributed to these things. We could make it a bit interesting, or spread of Hinduism in Southeast Asia. So anything like that. So it could be, make it a bit more slightly diverging, but still within the context of what we are saying.
Yeah, just true. Yeah, and then the second week could be, as you say, something related to Indology, or so it could be an expert seminar series, or if you still have the Gita, so there are 18 chapters, right? So you could take one chapter. This week it is chapter 1, recite chapter 1, and one of our friends in the group will summarize the essence of chapter 1. And then, so maybe if you cover that, you have about 14-15 weeks to go through Gita, at least the verses and the essence of this. We may not be able to do great justice to individual verses of Gita, but at least all of us will get a flavor of what it is about. Yeah. So there is another Shreyas has come. Madhuji, would you be open to taking requests from group members on which topics to speak about? For example, a talk on Vishnu Sahasranama or Harivaya Stuti. Yeah, all those things will be greatly appreciated, Shreyas. Absolutely, yeah. So so it's our group, right? It's not 1 or 2% running. It's all our group. So whatever we want to exchange. So maybe that second week we can have for those kind of deliberation. Fourth week is for revision. What I'll do is first and the third week I will continue with the syllabus or whatever the next topic is going to be. Pragnesh, you've raised your hands. Is it legacy or
no? And the fifth Sunday could be for invited speakers.
Yeah, if we can manage, yes. Yeah, fifth Sunday if it happens. And I think we can also have occasional holidays. Let's treat ourselves with 1 or 2 holidays, like bank holidays. Yeah. Sorry, okay, fine. So that's good. Sorry.
Madhu, I've just put in the chat. Do you need a month's break in August? Let's start there.
Month's break. I don't know if we are going to go anywhere. But
month's break will be a long, and also, like, I don't think anybody will be going anywhere this August. It will be same thing like last time. If at all, people may go a bit here and there, and but very unlikely people go to India or America or big foreign holidays. I mean, that is my view. Month's holiday might completely derail, everything. So
yeah, true. I don't have any major holidays as well. So yeah, they will for that. As I think we can carry on 1 and 3. First week and the third week is perfectly fine. And my intention here is not that I'm skiving away from what is essentially, I'm finding it more useful. It's amazing to do it on a weekly basis. But I just want all of us to contribute to this actively now. I think the change in format will enable all of us to actually become even more active participants. We are all good in the Q&A sessions, but I think each one of us, if we can volunteer and actually come up and share your thoughts and ideas, that'll be good. Yeah, so let's stick to this plan. So Sudarshan and all, I'll come up with a timetable of this. But anyway, it's given a lot of food for thought as to how to go about doing this as we go forward. So I think I've got some ideas. So what I will confirm is first and the third week of every month, I shall do it. Second and fourth week will be revision. It is the second week that needs a little bit of thinking about as to what the itinerary is going to be at the second week. We'll keep talking about that. I'm sure we'll come up with a solution. Okay. So on
Yeah,
that note,
yeah, Madhu, the second week, that's very good actually, because it gives a lot of flexibility for external speakers, for anything like that actually. So it gives a bit of, for 1, 3, and 4 are fixed. Week 2 gives a bit of lot of flexibility, which is good.
So, so if we don't have an external speaker, maybe the organizers could decide, say, 5 verses of Gita that will be discussed.
Yeah. We'll decide that. Yeah, that's exactly what it gives a lot of flexibility. That's all. So if we don't have any external speakers, we can do many other things.
yeah, okay, excellent. So on that note, let me go to the next slide. So I had put in a suggestion as to if we have to do, if we do first and the third week of every month, what are the things that we can look at? So I had given a choice: deep philosophy of Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 6, which, as many of you will know, is one of those pillars for many schools of Vedanta. So that might bring out a lot of discussions and thought processes. It's deep philosophy, but it will be interesting, I think. So my one suggestion was deep philosophy of Chandogya, chapter 6. That is a discussion with Uddalaka and his son Swetaketu. So that will be interesting. And of course, the summary of Bhagavad Gita, Sankhya Yoga, chapter 2, I had one. Then I had key Vedic concepts of Atharvana Upanishad or Mundaka Upanishad. Because we did Mandukya Upanishad, I thought Mundaka Upanishad may be interesting. And then because we have done Purusha Shukta and then we have done Gayatri, which is Upasana of the sun, it is important to do Upasana of the fire. Yeah. And I said Agni Shukta of Rigveda. We say, oh, Rigveda, oh, Agni Shukta, oh, it is the very first Shukta. But what does it actually talk about? It's a profound Shukta, of course, and that will be interesting. So I had Agni Shukta. These are the 4 things that I had in mind. So the majority there is Sankhya Yoga, chapter 2. The next one is Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 6. And the third one is Atharvana Upanishad. So we can do them all as we go along, but we just need to decide in which order. Agni Shukta. So now, given the discussion that we have had just a few minutes ago, and if we are going to be having that Gita discussions, I'm now thinking whether I have to hold that Sankhya Yoga discussion for maybe for the next occasion, and then maybe do the deep philosophy of Chandogya Upanishad, chapter 6. What do we think?
Madhu, I've put in the chat. In last week's talk suggested that we should do Isha Upanishad.
Isha Upanishad, yeah, of course, yeah, that is also open for definitely for discussion. Isha Vasi Upanishad, 18 months. We can cover this over maybe 4 months, 3 to 4 months, possibly. Yeah, I'll put the Isha Upanishad also, Deval, in that equation. So what do we think, guys? Let me know what, my feeling is, Chandogya is what my appetite is at this point, Chandogya chapter 6, because we have discussed a lot of high philosophy so far. I think we have to pat our shoulders and we have to give kudos to ourselves, because we have actually focused and engaged ourselves for 16 months talking about deep, these are hardcore philosophies. Yeah. And I think we got the foundation, we got the background to approach these Upanishads, chapter 6 of Chandogya. I feel more inclined to do this. And then definitely Isha Vasi Upanishad comes next. And then Sankhya Yoga maybe after that. And then maybe if we are still enthusiastic, we can do Atharvana and then Agni Shukta. Is that all right?
Super, boss. And at the end of the day, it's about what you are like, what you want. It's order is best. It comes from you rather than from us. And if you feel like this, what you want to do, by all means, go ahead. And I think you know the best.
Yeah, sure. True, but I don't want to be dictative here. I just want to go with what everybody wants. I think 2 folks have said Isha Vasi Upanishad will be good. I buy that. Shall I say Chandogya Upanishad, 6th chapter? It should not take too long. There are a few key verses in various section of Chandogya, chapter 6. We should finish it in 2.5, 3 months maybe. Let's say 2 months we'll finish it. But because we are doing every alternate week, it might take longer. So let's say 3 months, and then given the feedback that we have had, we will move to Isha Upanishad next. Yeah.
Okay,
So
I think
that's done.
that will finish until end of August, and then September you can take the Isha Upanishad. Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, so we'll do that. Next one is, these are all easy ones. Charity donations to support Hindu knowledge dissemination. And then again, everybody is happy with that. So that's always useful to know, because Sudarshan comes up with never-ending ideas of fundraising and so on. And sometimes I also feel, are we all being overwhelmed with all this of donate for this, donate for that, donate for this cause and so on. But I think if everybody is willing and there is a strongly support, at least more than half strongly support, and majority of them support. We had one or two who were not particularly keen, but that's fine. So I think that's good to know. The next one was, will you recommend Hindu Knowledge Academy to friends and family? No surprises there. Yes. I want to know who said no. No, he said other responses. I don't know who the others are. If the person is here, please spell out your beans. What does that mean? About friends and families, I don't know what it means.
It must be a typo, Madhu. There isn't another in this. It can only be yes or.
Okay, I'll take that. Right. Okay. And then charity. Yeah, this is something we were looking at, but it comes with its own headaches. But Sudarshan, see the response there. 94% want this to be as a charity, which would allow formal fundraisings and stuff.
Very good. Yeah, I think we are moving in the right direction anyway.
Yeah.
So we'll be doing that, because many of the other activities makes it easy if you register, and it might just suddenly somebody might see us and then say like, okay, I'm very impressed, I want to give a donation to spread these activities, and it really helps. So we'll do that definitely.
Finally, GCSE Hinduism. I think this is we can start this one, but it needs to be taken over by one or two or three or more folks within this group who should lead this and formalize this. But anyway, the appetite is there again. 80% of us want GCSE Hinduism kind of classes somehow to be delivered through Hindu Knowledge Academy. So that's up for discussion in the future, I guess.
It will happen, but what's one of our aims is to do that, and I think it will happen now. Definitely, we'll start from September for the children to take it the exams in next March or April, because there's so too much of disruption in the schools and the curriculum and the exams this year, isn't it? So I think even the basic normal their day-to-day schooling has been disrupted. So we didn't have much time to think about this, GCS, even though we started talking about it last year. So we will bring it to some sort of a formal. I think there is a Hindu education board which has been created by other Hindu organizations. We can also chip into that, and also we can make it more effective. So there are other stakeholders with whom we can work for this actually.
Yeah, cool. Excellent. So on that note, I'm going to stop sharing. And if there is no other outstanding issues, I think we can all go back to the gardens and enjoy the rest of the evening, at least in the UK. And thanks for folks from other parts of the world who have joined in the US, Dubai, India. Please stay safe and we'll catch up. So next week is the first week of the month. So I shall start with chapter 6 of Chandogya Upanishad. I really look forward to that. It's intellectually very stimulating. And that's my selfish reason as to why I want to also do this. And I hope you will also share me in that enthusiasm to read chapter 6 of Chandogya Upanishad. Okay, so we'll meet up next Sunday.
Okay, we'll end with the Om.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Madhu. That will be nice. Chandogya.
Om.
Om.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.